Roastar packaging is continually innovating. They aren't where they were more than a decade ago when they won Best New Product at San Diego's Coffee Fest. They've actually gotten better, driven by their 5-step plan. Step 1, make better packaging. Step 2, make it domestically. Step 3, make it easy for small business owners. Step 4, make it look awesome. Step 5, world domination. It's working, as they just won Best New Product at Coffee Fest New York for their new peel and stick valved tin closure. That's hard to say, but it's a win for Roastar and a win for small business. On roastar.com, you can use their artwork templates to enable you to imagine your artwork, your logo, on a sleek coffee bag, classic tin, sticker, or label. Roastar has been and is tipping the scales to favor solo entrepreneurs and small businesses, using digital printing to offer faster turnaround times and smaller print runs for coffee roasters. In short, Roastar can help and grow your business. And on roastar.com, you can start with a quote and end with the perfect coffee package to share your story. Now, on to the show. Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Season 10, Episode 4 of the Coffee People Podcast, which is part of the Roast West Coast Coffee Network and presented by Roastar Coffee Packaging. I'm Ryan Woldt, and this is the Coffee Podcast, where we meet really compelling human beings from all corners of the coffee industry, including today's guests, Heather Kelly and Miranda Caldwell, who, despite being on opposite sides of the world from each other, are the founders of the Coffee MBA and the Coffee MBA Collective, which provides coffee business education, consulting, and so much more, in an effort to uplift the businesses behind our favorite coffees. Before we get to the podcast, please do us a solid and follow our Roast West Coast newsletter found at roastwestcoast.com. You can follow any particular thread of our coffee podcasting network, including this show, Coffee People, our other podcasts, including Coffee Smarter and Coffee Smarter Pro, or follow them all with just one sign-up. Actually, yeah, do that one, the last one. Follow them all. It's just one email per week for the most part. And since we're already shouting out requests, right now, I'm requesting that you check out thecoffeemba.co. That's C-O, not C-O-M. While simultaneously finding, brewing, acquiring yourself a pleasant drinking cup of coffee to enjoy while we have a pleasant chat with the co-founders of the Coffee MBA, Heather Kelly in Portland, Oregon, and Miranda Caldwell in Berlin, Germany. I think we are all ready to go, and we'll start all over because that's what technology does, and it's amazing that we're even able to talk from opposite sides of the world. If you wouldn't mind, Miranda, just starting again, let people know your name and the name of your company and your role there, and then we can jump to Heather.
Awesome. I am Miranda Caldwell, and I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of the Coffee MBA.
I'm Heather Kelly, and I am also the co-founder and co-CEO of the Coffee MBA. And as Miranda said before, the Coffee MBA Collective, which is an all-new part of our business that we're very proud of.
I've been seeing it on LinkedIn, on social media. I got an email this morning about it, so I'm excited to learn more about it today.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
The Coffee MBA isn't the first thing that you have ever done, not just in coffee, but in your lives. So I'm hoping to learn a little bit more about you both. If you could give me a little backstory on one, what was your first kind of coffee memory, your first coffee experience, and what set you down this path? Heather, why don't we start with you?
Oh, yeah, great. Oh, well, I'll start with my first coffee experience. I grew up here in Portland, Oregon, and my parents and I used to walk down our very steep hill to a coffee shop called Coffee People, and I would get various types of steamers, some better than others. I remember the fruit flavors would curdle pretty bad, but my parents would get lattes, and this was like, late 80s, early 90s, very early in specialty coffee. And it became a ritual for our family that we really fell in love with here in the Pacific Northwest. And in high school, my mom bought a little coffee cart and we started running it. and I was her first manager. Fun fact, she was also the first and only person to ever fire me from a job. And it was a fight we got in over the till, counting the till at the end of the day. And, I was a very hot-headed high school, college student, thought I knew everything. And she just needed me to do it the way she needed me to do it. Yeah. And then fast forward, I've been in coffee for almost 25 years, if you count all that time in, and done everything from project management for a franchise organization to selling for roasters and manufacturers. I was a broker in the specialty coffee industry for allied products and covered most of the United States, well, at least the southern half of the United States, selling Ghirardelli chocolate to different roasters. And that was really fun because I got to know so many roasters and so many coffee people over that time, which I think I can still credit why I know so many coffee people to that job. And just fast forward to Stumptown where I worked, and then tried to jump in and out of the coffee industry a couple of times into CPG, always in the food and beverage space, but just coffee keeps sucking me in. I kind of think of it like a warm, cozy chair that I keep trying to get out of, but it just calls me back and it feels right when I'm in it.
I can relate to that, Heather. The first job I ever quit was for my dad at the restaurant. And 10 minutes later, he found me at home and dragged me back because now I was going to work for free because we're family and that's what we had to do.
Amazing.
So I could relate a little bit. How about you, Miranda? Where did you kind of get your start and what was your first coffee memory?
Well, coffee was something that just was always around, but it wasn't something that was coveted in a way. Like there weren't coffee shops that we went to or anything like that. But I started drinking it in high school. And there was actually, I remember a family trip. My family's very Dutch and very like traditional in Michigan. And they loved eating at this place called Das Essenhaus. And I remember I was like, I don't know, maybe in middle school, 8th grade, 9th grade. And I got a cup of coffee and was pouring in cream and sugar. And my uncle said to me, "Are you going to have any coffee with that sugar?" And that was my first like really solid memory of like having a cup of coffee. And I think I appreciated it for the utility. And then it turned into my very first coffee job, which funny enough, my mom was my first boss, but that was at the YMCA. I wasn't fired. But my first coffee shop job, it was like the cool place in town. I grew up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I was sitting at the bar one day and the manager was like, "How do you like your job at the bagel shop?" And I'm like, "I don't." And he's like, "Do you want a job here?" I was like, "Yes, I do." And it was literally the coolest job ever. And I worked there for 3 years. And I loved the culture of it. Like this was at night, we could play loud music. And I loved that I got to talk to like really cool people during my whole shift. And I think that just kind of kept me coming back. And I have tried to leave coffee so many times, and I have not been as kind as Heather and thought of it as a cozy chair, but more of like a trap that like pulls me back. But now I love it, and I'm so grateful for the experiences I've had, but I've definitely tried to leave many times. So I've mostly worked for coffee roasters throughout the US, but I've had like basically every job at those coffee roasting companies. A lot of my career was in Los Angeles and worked for Counterculture and Verve. I've worked for Madcap in Michigan and just held a lot of different types of jobs. I just don't roast coffee. That's my only thing. I don't roast coffee, but I've
Not
done the
yet.
other stuff. Not yet. I've
Not
roasted
yet.
coffee once on a sample roaster, and I think it might stay that way.
I have been to a lot of roast days, and I know very, very viscerally that I will never be a coffee roaster ever. Too much math and science for me. And now you have the coffee MBA. How did the two of you meet? I think there's kind of an interesting story there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I'll pick it up and then I'll give the backstory and then maybe Heather can pick it up where we met. So I decided to come back to the coffee industry because I really felt like there was something that the industry needed, which was business skills and business education. And so I just basically started talking about business and coffee basically on LinkedIn. And as I was doing that, I just kind of called what I was doing the coffee MBA. But it wasn't anything. Someone even asked me once, like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know. Like, don't come at me. I'm just figuring this out. It was like just the newsletter. And then it was like, well, maybe it's online courses and content. I don't know exactly. But then someone, and so I started thinking about it as like an opportunity to create education and coursework online for business education. And then one day, someone named Heather Kelly reached out to me on LinkedIn. And at the time, I was like, what is this? Why is this competitor want to talk to me? Because she was working at a company called Coffee Business. So maybe, Heather, you can pick it up from there.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Yeah. So I've always had a passion for the education and human side of the coffee industry. And I've been a longtime friend. My family has been longtime friends with the Miletos. So Matt and Bruce Mileto, who started Bellissimo, and they're kind of, longtime legacy coffee family here in Portland, Oregon. They wrote some books about education, etc. And their company was purchased by another company here in Portland, and I went to work for them. And part of the reason I accepted that job was because of the education aspect for the coffee industry. They had a platform called Online Barista Training, and they had a number of different business type of tools for specialty coffee people. Well, that company didn't work out for me, and I'm not sure where that company is today, but when I left that company, I saw this woman online who seemed like a total force to be reckoned with on LinkedIn. And I loved what she was saying because it resonated so deeply with me about the business education skills that we could bring to the specialty coffee industry, and how making sustainable businesses in the coffee industry was going to help the industry overall stay profitable, stay sustainable, et cetera. So I reached out to Miranda Caldwell, and I knew that she had just moved to Berlin. So I didn't know what was going to come of it. But I was like, I just really feel drawn to this person because we think very similarly. And it took us about 2 meetings before we were like, we should do this. We should make this a thing. And I was actually speaking with Leila Gambari about the name, the Coffee MBA, because I thought it was such a fantastic name for a business. And we both were like, that name is fire. Like we should let her know how much we like it. On that call, I said, Miranda, what you're doing is something that I feel like I can get behind. We did that thing where we like NDA'd each other and like made sure that we were safe. And then we told each other all of our ideas, and they aligned pretty much perfectly. And here we are today building this thing, and just feeling, I think I'll speak for myself, feeling so grateful that we found each other on LinkedIn. The funny thing is though, Ryan, that we like orbited around each other for our entire coffee careers. We both lived in LA at the same time, working in the same arts district in LA. I was at Stumptown. Miranda was at Verve or Counterculture?
Verve, yeah. At that time I was at Verve.
Yeah. And then,
which was next door to Stumptown.
Yeah.
Like our
we
office
both
was
lived
next
in
door.
Austin, Texas at the same time, working in the coffee industry. We've just been in these brands that we know of each other to some degree. But I had never heard her name until LinkedIn. So again, super grateful for that platform to have brought us together, even though we had orbited around each other for probably over a decade.
So weird.
But the timing had to be right, to get to the Coffee MBA. What is the Coffee MBA for somebody listening who's hearing that and just going, okay, well, I don't know what that means.
Yeah. So really, I like to think of it as what I feel like we're building is an ecosystem that's a resource for business support for the coffee industry and those who speak to the coffee industry. Our clients aren't just coffee roasters and cafes. It's also, there's a whole industry around the industry, right? And so we want to, right now, the biggest thing on our plate is the Coffee MBA Collective, where we have assembled right now, officially, there's 20 of us. But ever since we launched yesterday, we have both gotten so many messages about like, we want to join the collective, which is, I'm just like, how am I in this position going from, like Heather said, who is this person to people wanting to work with us? It's like amazing. So anyway, The collective is all about, it's basically a consulting agency of, we can match you with the right fit consultant if you need one, but maybe you need a team of people to share expertise, because a lot of times there are systemic issues in a business. It's not just like, my roasting needs to be fixed, or just the operation map needs to be redrawn. It's like, well, no. Are you having communication issues? There's probably some sales problems and some marketing issues. Like, there's usually, it's bigger than just like the one little problem you're trying to solve. And so we're giving people access to this huge range of support and resources, And the original idea of making it all about education, I mean, that's still there. It's just our focus is shifted for right now to build this arm of the business, and I think that'll continue. We both love. I mean, we are doing webinars monthly. We're moving it to twice a month. Like, we're all about kind of, rising the tide of profitability and support in the coffee industry.
Yeah. And I'll just jump in with, we really decided that when people come to a consultant, they think they have problem A, right? Like, I need sales. But when you look under the hood, and you see, yeah, you do need sales, but you actually, if we were to bring you the level of sales you're asking us for, you don't necessarily have the operational workflow that you need for that. Or maybe you don't have the ERP and accounting system that will help you figure out if the sales you're making are profitable. And so that's why we really have started to take it beyond just like, yeah, we can give you a consultant to help you with sales, and into, there's a holistic picture here.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. The diagnosis is this, but if you look at the whole picture, there are more aspects that you need support with if you want to be successful with the thing that you just came to us for, which is sales. So really, I think it's just important to understand that, if you go in and ask a consultant to do one thing, but you don't have the structure and the foundation you need in your business to help them be successful, no one's going to be successful. And so I think what that looks like in practice is, this consultant failed and I wasted money on them. And it's real. What it is in actuality is that the entire system, the holistic ecosystem of your business, wasn't necessarily prepared. I mean, in some instances, okay, maybe your consultant failed, but I think if you look at it holistically, you'll see that there were other issues there too.
You are both mentioning problem solving things, but I'm assuming as you are growing, there's also problem preventing, which meaning somebody has an idea to start a new business. They can come to you and now with the collective. And I just want to make sure I'm understanding it. Anyone listening is understanding it, and say, hey, I want to start this coffee roastery. These are the things that I'm good at. Can we help build a system that'll work for the long run?
You're so right. Yeah, definitely. I would say it's more often than not, even in discovery calls, there will be a question that, pings in our mind. Hold on, you don't want to go that direction, because we've seen that too many times. 25 years of coffee industry experience for me, and 25 years of coffee industry experience for Miranda. We've seen it all, and we quickly say, that's not quite the path you want to go down in this instance. And so, yeah, you're right. Problem prevention.
But also, I would cry tears of joy if someone came to me before starting a business and said, what am I missing? I need help. That would be a miracle. So anyone listening who's thinking about it, please, before you start, get help.
It is so much more stressful when things have already collapsed. That's my experience. And it's why I'm doing this podcast, actually.
Good for you.
I'm the person that would get called if the restaurant was failing and they were like, well, we got one last chance.
Yeah.
And digging out of those holes is a challenge because, as you mentioned, there's never just one thing. It's a house of cards that you're trying to put together. How have you found the transatlantic? It's hard to say. How have you found working together from Portland and Germany? How does that relationship work? Even time zones has to be a nightmare.
It's hard.
How do you make the business part work?
Oh man, late nights on my part. That piece is hard. I think we're both just committed and I know Heather's the right person for me. And so I'm going to do what it takes to make that relationship work, right? So if that means I am an early to bed, early to rise gal, which is why coffee always worked well for me. I couldn't be a bartender, but working with someone on the Pacific coast of the US poses some challenges. We are 9 hours apart. Actually, right now we're 8, but I think next week or the week after we'll go back to 9 hours apart. So, yeah, it's been hard, but it also means that we're like increasing our impact globally, right? Like I can meet with someone in Japan a little bit easier than Heather can. And so I had a call with someone in Japan yesterday, but she can, have a call with, you know what I mean? Like
The West Coast, Hawaii. Yeah.
yeah, it just spreads us out, and which I think is a net positive for the company. What do you think,
Yeah.
Heather?
Yeah, we call it International Working Mom Time because we're both moms and, we're both working and there's a lot on our plates, but there is this like sweet spot in the day. Fortunately, that Miranda's willing to kind of stay up a little bit later for after her kids go to bed, that we can get the majority of our meeting together done. That's when we record our podcast. That's when we, really dig into some of our big things that we're working on. But I do think what I like to say is the coffee MBA never sleeps. Because when I'm asleep, Miranda's in full gear. When she's asleep, I'm in full gear. I think that's part of our superpower is that we are working nearly 24 hours a day to build this business. And we didn't even mention, we do have a wonderful part of our company, a gal named Lulu that we hired down in Zimbabwe. And so we really are a global team. I think it's challenging, but I think like Miranda said, we know that this is the right partnership. And so we're committed to making it work.
And we do a lot of voice notes on WhatsApp.
Yes. I wake up to Miranda's voice every morning, pretty much on my WhatsApp
You're
feed, and she
welcome.
probably does the same.
Yeah.
As I'm listening to you and I'm just instinctively thinking about how the business evolves, you as a team being the coffee MBA people and consulting with somebody, now having a collective where you're essentially managing a group of consultants, what was the thought process of is that something that you think that you will enjoy? Are you still going to be directly hands-on with clients where it's the two of you working with people? Because now when I call and say, hey, I'm freaking out, I got this problem at, wherever, you might guide me somewhere else. I mean, the difference between managing versus hands-on, how has that transition gone? Or do you anticipate it to
Well,
go? Because I know it's very new.
brand spanking new. But, I got this question recently of like, you just changed what your job is, because you went from working in a business to like, being a coordinator basically. But I think, one thing that Heather and I want to do is like, we intend to be involved. It's not a handoff in any way, shape, or form. It is still, we are involved in the relationship with the client and we are assembling a team, or we are, working with someone in the collective and with the client. I think maybe we're not the ones who are like building the spreadsheet or whatever, but we are still a part of that relationship. And I love working with teams. Like the fact that we now have Slack and there's all of these people on Slack who are participating without us even having to direct that is like the mama bird in me is just like the happiest clam ever at the moment. But Heather, I'm really curious because I haven't asked you this question. And so I'm curious
Yeah.
what your answer is.
Yeah. I mean, we're either very smart or we're crazy. And I'm going to go with a little of both. No, I think that what we realized, the coffee collective came about because what we realized is that ultimately Miranda and I had too much work on our plate for just the two of us, right? So we had all these incredible clients because we really had this feeling that we want to say yes to as many people as possible, whether you're, sub $1 million revenue annually, or whether you're $600 million revenue annually. We want to find an entry point for you where we can support you and help you. And so we had kind of too much work on our plates for just the two of us as international working moms. And then we know all of these incredible, incredible coffee people that could come and add value alongside of us. And so what I think of it as is not that I'm managing these people. It's that we're multiplying our reach. And so we really are, we're definitely not necessarily managing. We may be project managing, but we're setting the standards, we're providing the tools, we're giving the support to both the client and the consultant. And we're connecting those dots so that the client, we can say yes to as many clients as possible and help out as many consultants as possible. And what I'm really finding is that consultants live in a world that's very isolated at times, and they don't know who's a competitor and who's safe, who's going to steal their ideas, who's going to burn them out, who's going to, all those things. So consultants end up living in this very insular world. And I think that that's a recipe for burnout and feeling isolated and depression. There's all these things. We're not meant to live alone forever, right? And so by creating this space where consultants can come together, whether it's on Slack or in person, like we will at SCA, and find a safe space where they're not, the other consultants hopefully are not competitive with one another, but you can share best practices, you can get team tools, you can feel safe in a community and still support a client and still pursue your passion of consulting and fractional work. I think that's a win for the consultant and then a win for the client too.
Yeah. And I think not to be like naive about it, but I feel like we're facilitators.
Yeah.
We're facilitating those relationships, but we still get to have those relationships with the consultants and with the client, which is really special. And I love puzzles and problem solving. And so to me, this is like the ultimate puzzle. Like, ooh, client, what's your issue? Okay. Ooh, my brain gets fired up of like, ooh, okay, we have got a person who could probably help with that. And then they can help with this. And, that's a whole puzzle to put together, which is really exciting.
You just mentioned SEA. You're both going to be there in person, real life. Are you going to be hosting? Are you going to be exploring? What's your goals for SEA this year?
Oy, oy, oy.
Yeah.
Heather, what are we doing?
We have so much. We have so much going on at SCA. We're so excited about SCA this year. We were just contracted by the SCA to do the first of its kind activation within the trade show, and it's called the Retail Buyer Lounge. And it's for retail buyers and, purchasing influencers for large retailers. So it's retailers that are above $5 million revenue annually. This will be a space for them to go and have a special lounge that's dedicated to learning, networking. There will be a pitch slam for the brands to come in and pitch these major retailers. We're working alongside of the SCA helping plan that, which is going to be amazing. And then we also have 3 webinars. Not webinars, workshops. We have 3 workshops and we are both supporting those workshops, but people from our fractional collective will be teaching them primarily, but we're hands-on building the content. One of us will be at every workshop. It's going to be amazing. And then we're also helping to plan a couple parties. So we're helping to plan a party with Cropster and Metric and Azahar and a few other incredible brands like that. That's going to be Friday night. Mm-hmm. And there's actually something on Thursday night, and I'm sure we'll get ourselves in trouble on Saturday night with the Barista Magazine folks and the Pacific Natural Food folks doing some things. And so, it's going to be an action-packed week. But what I will say, it's also a great time for us to spend time with the collective, the Coffee MBA collective, and get some folks together and make sure that we're all networked.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to that event. I'm going to be driving this year so I can explore.
Driving from California to Chicago?
Yeah, that's something that I do.
Wow, fun. Is it van life?
No. This is very selfish so that I can route through Colorado and spend a day on the slopes. And
nice.
My family's all near the Midwest, so I get a chance to swing through and say hello as well.
That's so fun. Awesome. If you have the time for it, road trips can be such a blast.
I do not have the time for it, but I have a wonderful wife who has volunteered to figure out the dog sitting situation. So
good.
Which is, I don't know about you if you have pets or anything, but our life revolves around this dog. There is no exception to that. Whatever he needs, that's where I'm going.
Heather has a puppy, so she gets it.
My life did revolve around my dogs until I had kids. And unfortunately, my friends told me that would happen. And I was like, never. My dog is my everything. And then the kids came along and I was like, I will get to you when I have a second.
Nothing provides me as much joy and as much anger as this dog does, moment to moment. It never
Yeah.
ends.
Also sounds like children.
Yeah, I've heard that. You both have a wealth of experience in the industry. What would be a piece of advice you would give to somebody? If you were to say, "Hey, somebody's like, I don't know what's happening. I'm trying to start this coffee business or get into the coffee world." What would you offer them? What would you say to, I don't know, maybe calm them down, but also guide them?
Honestly, for me, I would say you do you. Like, do not look at what competitors are doing and think you have to fit whatever that looks like. And instead, focus on your competitive advantage, your unique opportunity. And I call it your most powerful direction. So what's your personal most powerful direction in this business, or as like a person in the industry, right? Like what is your unique offering that you have, and learn the business side. I don't care if you don't ever contact the Coffee MBA to help you, do it on your own. Learn about all of the fundamentals of running a business and give yourself a little like YouTube MBA if that's what it takes. But figure out your financials, know your numbers, and stick to what you do and don't try to like fit in with everybody else. Heather, what would you say?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think the number one thing I would say is do your homework,
Mm,
and the thing that we find the most often is that people get into the coffee industry with a passion for coffee and a passion for whatever their concept is. And I love that. That's so amazing. You cannot buy passion, right? But they quickly realize that their passion becomes a business. And unless you know your business and you know your numbers, and unless you realize that this business is going to be hard work, you're going to hit some pretty big speed bumps really fast. And so, my biggest piece of advice is get yourself to a place where you know your numbers. What is your break even point? What is your return on investment? When will you see an impact? How many people can you hire to support you if you start to run yourself out of gas, burn the candle at both ends? And if you still feel so passionately about that project, once you know all those things, then do it and do it with your whole heart. But don't forget, it's a business and it's going to be hard. And so make sure that you've got that time, that space in your brain, that emotional readiness, that fortitude to go create your passion, and then just live that passion with your business hat on. That's what I think.
You didn't directly say it, but I hear a little bit of like, hey, there's also a mental health component to all of
mhm.
this. You need to be able
Absolutely.
to manage those different columns in your life and your heart. And it's something that people don't think about a lot when they're starting a new business, I think.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Portland is obviously in the Hall of Fame for coffee cities. How's Berlin? I have never had a cup of coffee in Berlin. Now that you're there, Miranda, is it everything you hoped and dreamed, or?
Berlin's amazing. Yeah, in the coffee space. I know you just had James on. I listened to your interview with James Harper, and I met him for coffee one day near my home. And yeah, like I literally could throw a stone to a five elephant, a bonanza, a barn, not too far from 19 grams and Coffee Circle. And I mean, it's just like this insane list of roasters who are really fantastic. I think James said 19 grams was his favorite. I just went there
Mhm.
for the first time. So it's really like high end specialty, like the barn only does single origin coffees. I go to Five Elephant all of the time. They have farmers' names that I recognize and know on the bags, and so it's just, I'm very, very lucky. And I think we're just like earlier here in the phase of like market development for specialty coffee. I keep saying like Berlin it's not that they're behind, it's that it's earlier in its adoption, and so
Mhm.
it's still at that level where if you're specialty, you're a specialty, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I actually see where I am at in Southern California. We've kind of tipped over that like aggressive specialty
Hmm.
into casual, like, hey, something for everyone, and
Yeah.
finding a balance between the two. Heather, if you were going out for a coffee in Portland, where are you headed?
Oh, my first stop is always to good coffee. Sam Purvis is an old, coffee friend of mine, and his brothers have started a couple of these good coffees now. But he came up through the barista, which was the concept that Billy Wilson started. What feels like 100 years ago now, but can't be that long ago. And good coffee just always they just execute right every single time. They always have great single origins on. Their baristas are kind, either that or I head to a case study. Case study coffee is also one of my favorites. I do for my home still buy Stumptown coffee roasters every day because I still think they have some of the best QA/QC, and I still know their team and I know that it's the real deal. And so, yeah, those are my first stops in Portland, and then also what I buy for my house.
Stumptown is one of those tree foundational businesses where so many
Yeah,
people that I meet, especially from Portland, are like, well, I started at Stumptown and then I went and did this.
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can trace the history back to that. What
Yeah.
did I not ask you about the Coffee MBA about you today that you guys wanted to share?
That's a hard one, Ryan. I'm glad we're not live so you can. Oh, man.
There's got to be something that I missed that you're like, you know what, people need to know this. And if not, it just means you've got everything figured out. We're good.
I don't know. I can't think of anything. I mean, yeah.
So as we're kind of coming to a close, what comes next? We already talked about a little bit about SEA, but what is the future of the Coffee MBA?
Yeah, I think the future of the Coffee MBA is bright, and the collective is very bright. I think you can watch for us to come out with a lot more webinars on LinkedIn and Zoom because we really feel passionately about delivering as much knowledge and insight as possible. We have a webinar series tomorrow. Actually, I'm doing a smart goals, but I think this podcast will come out after that. After that, we'll have a series from a gentleman named Kevin Wenzel, who is a longtime industry veteran who's going to drop a ton of knowledge on us. Keep watching for our podcast. And, we really want to show up in a way where we are supporting the entire specialty coffee industry, whether that's through placing consultants or offering free business insights. Our goal is really to try and keep as much content free as possible because we want to be able to have people reach the knowledge and insights that they need. So just watch for that coming up next. What would you say, Miranda?
Yeah. And I think now that we have a collection of people, the collective to pull from, I would love to start utilizing them and getting their faces out there more. I mean, a lot of them are already very well known. They don't need us for that, but to leverage them to share their knowledge with these webinars, also with courses. We are the first, this is my first time saying it out loud, but we are the first Cropster Commerce partner since Cropster Commerce launched. And so I'd love to, really exploit that and really keep giving people the knowledge that they need, like how do you use Cropster Commerce to help your business? Like any opportunity to really, like we like to say, raise the tide for this industry and help businesses stay profitable. Because I am a huge believer in the fact that if coffee businesses can be profitable, then the whole value chain has a better chance at being profitable. That doesn't mean people will choose to do that or to invest in that, but there's an opportunity, but we have to be making money first, right? So anything we can do to, I know exploit's the wrong word, but like use these resources that we have to share more information with people, like that's what we're going to be continuing to do in the future.
I don't want to point out a contradiction, but if making money is important, starting podcasts may not be the way to go. I just wanted to say that. When
We have
you
noticed that.
when you are out and about getting a cup of coffee, especially when you get a chance to go somewhere new, what do you order?
I always order an espresso. I feel like that's boring.
No,
So
that's what you
it's
order.
not boring. Miranda and I actually had the opportunity to meet in New York and go on a coffee crawl. And we learned a lot about each other when it came to ordering, I think. And she gets an espresso, I get an Americano. And she's like, why do you get Americanos? And I've always gotten 8-ounce Americanos because I think that you can kind of like spread out those flavor profiles in the espresso a little bit more and kind of taste all the aspects of it. And then also like No lie, I love tasting espresso, but it's kind of intense.
I
So,
like
like,
intensity.
she is. She's high
I'm
intensity, and
intense.
I love it. Yeah, I'm the watered down version. No, I'm just kidding. And then she'd get an espresso, I'd get an Americano, and then we'd get like a pour over of some kind that was like, what's your weirdest and wildest and coolest? And then we would have that and split it. And so if I'm on a coffee crawl, that's what I do. And then I always look for a really cool specialty beverage that may be a
Mm,
seasonal LTO,
mhm.
because I really love it when somebody has a new idea for a limited time offer drink. So like, one of my favorites was I saw a white chocolate tahini mocha and I was like, I need to try that, you know?
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was really interesting the way the sesame expressed itself with the espresso and the white chocolate. It's, even if it's not something that I would want to drink an entire cup of or, go back to, I just love being inspired by new flavor profiles. So, if I'm on a coffee crawl, that's definitely the directions that I go.
That's an interesting thing you just said, where you might not want a whole cup. I've reached an age where I am willing to try just about anything, whether it's a coffee or a movie or a book, but I don't make myself finish it. And as a
Okay.
child, I say as a child, in my 20s and 30s, let's say, I might have
Child.
been more inclined to say, hey, you bought this or you started it, you have to finish it. And now I'm just like, no,
Same.
Yeah.
I only have so much time.
I used to guilt the books. That was always the hard one. I started this book. I have to finish it, even though it's giving me anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
Not anymore.
There's a book sitting by my front door to go into a neighbor's lending library today that I
Yeah.
started yesterday and just said, nope, not for me.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Same with food though. I mean, I used to be like, okay, I ordered it, I have to eat it. And now I'm like, nope, I don't.
Yeah.
Miranda, you being in Germany, I mentioned this on my show with James, but when I was traveling around the countryside, a lot of the restaurants did not have English menus, which why would they?
Hmm.
It's Germany.
Right.
But I couldn't read German, and they wouldn't tell me what it was in English oftentimes, or we were having a language barrier. So I would just point to things in German on the menu and just be surprised when they showed up. And
Amazing.
I left more than a couple of meals.
What was the
What
worst
was
thing
your,
you got?
what was your weirdest one?
Vice versa is strange to me, but
This is terrible because I am a German origin. My family heritage is mostly German. I hate sauerkraut.
Oh, what?
Sauerkraut. I think as a child, it was just such a part of my life, and I just hate it. And when a lot of the items that I would order would come with sauerkraut, I just hit a weird line up there. But this has gone off the rails. I really appreciate both of you for spending some obviously very busy time when you're both awake, with Coffee People and this podcast, and thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
thank you so much, Ryan. We are so pleased that you invited us. We
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Ryan, thank you so much for having us. And we wish you all the best of luck with all your podcasting and all the things you're doing. And please travel safely to SCA because we want to meet you in person.
Yes. Drive
I hope
safe.
so. Okay, some key takeaways from today's podcast. Heather and Miranda were orbiting each other in the coffee community for years before their initial online interaction led them to partner up on this Coffee MBA effort. I thought it was interesting that they both referenced attempting to leave coffee over the years, and I myself have often tried to leave the world of hospitality. But there is something about the service of these industries that grabs a hold and keeps fulfilling a passion that certain people won't find elsewhere, even if they try. The Coffee MBA originally sprung out of Miranda's desire to add business education to the coffee industry. It was a space she felt was lacking. And at first, it was her posting commentary and information online, primarily on LinkedIn. Then one fateful day, Heather took a chance and slid into her DMs with a comment of appreciation. It didn't take long before it was clear they had each found the right person to partner with to pursue this business. The Coffee MBA began as online education, and that continues. But the big new step in this collaboration is the creation of the Coffee MBA Collective, which is essentially a business and creative consulting agency aimed specifically at the coffee industry. Often, a business's issues aren't a simple fix. They'll need more than a Band-Aid to change a company's systemic issues. That's where Miranda and Heather come in with the collective. They're identifying a business's needs and then matching them with the right expert or experts in the coffee collective community. They're like the Avengers of coffee consulting pros. I don't think they can say that because it would be an infringement on Marvel's intellectual property, but I think I can say it as a comparison. I'm pretty sure that I can. I may need a legal consult with the Coffee MBA Collective. When I asked for the advice that they would give someone out there considering starting a business in coffee, Miranda and Heather recommended that you learn the fundamentals of business and really dig into your numbers. You may need help, and you may not, but preemptively doing a little self-education or assisted education can, and likely will, save your behind somewhere down the road. Finally, I just want to clarify my stance on sauerkraut. To be clear, I hate it. If it's on the plate, it taints everything else. If you'd like to learn more or connect with Heather and Miranda of the Coffee MBA, you can find them online at thecoffeemba.co or at thecoffeemba on Instagram, or search for The Coffee MBA on LinkedIn. Since you'll be online anyway, you may as well follow the newsletter that accompanies this podcast at coffeepeoplepodcast.com or roastwestcoast.com. It's all going to the same place. That's our Coffee People conversation for today. Thank you for listening to the stories of coffee people, for being inspired by their entrepreneurial efforts, their wins, their losses, and thank you for supporting this podcast by listening, sharing, and when you can, choosing the paid newsletter option on coffeepeoplepodcast.com. This podcast will return next week with the founders of the West African Farmers Initiative. Helping us bring this and that show to you is this podcast's presenting sponsor, Roastar Coffee Packaging, found at roastar.com. We're also supported by our great coffee industry partners, including our legacy partners, Zumbar Coffee and Tea, Steady State Roasting, Moster Coffee Company, Coffee Cycle Roasting, Maria Coffee, and Cape Horn Green Coffee Importers. A special thank you to Alden Hazuri of Crossings Coffee and Luke and Jared Hales at Hasea Coffee Source, who've been the presenting sponsor of our Coffee Smarter episodes, helping those of you out there listening brew a better cup of coffee at home. And thank you to our full city partners, Ignite Coffee Company, Ascend Coffee Roasters, Ascento Coffee Roasters, Civets Roasting Machines, San Franciscan Roasters, Me and My Uncle Coffee, and Craft 42 Coffee Roasters. This show, the Coffee People Podcast, is part of the Roast West Coast Coffee Network, and this episode has been written, produced, and recorded by me, Ryan Woldt, without any help from AI. I hope this episode has found you happy, healthy, and with at least a thread of sanity left, enabling you to make it through the day. Always tip your baristas, and be sure to drink good coffee. If you are in the early stages of your coffee journey, we want to support you. Check out the Coffee Smarter Education podcasts. Coffee Smarter is designed to enable coffee drinkers to brew a better cup of coffee at home. And Coffee Smarter Pro covers industry-specific topics for baristas, roasters, shop owners, and aspiring coffee professionals. You'll find both shows on your favorite podcast platforms or on our website at coffeesmarterpodcast.com.
I can't thank you enough for having us, for real though. And, I'm sorry if I sound salesy at points. Like, that's kind of literally just how I talk.
It is.
I was born this way. I can't stop myself.